The Nightbeat starts right now.
Our top story tonight, a man lost his life after being shot on the east side just a few hours ago. This is the second fatal shooting in that area this weekend.
San Antonio police say the shooting stemmed from a fight between the victim and suspect, and tonight police are still looking for that suspect. It happened just before 7 p.m. at an apartment complex on Lavender Lane near South W.W. White Road. When police arrived there, they found the victim with multiple gunshot wounds. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Police spoke with witnesses in the area in hopes of trying to locate the suspect.
Bexar County deputies need your help finding a man who was last seen yesterday in far south Bexar County. This is 27-year-old Robert Rodriguez Jr. BCSO officials say he was last seen in the 900 block of Southeast Military Drive near FM 1937. He's described as having brown hair and eyes and no facial hair. He also has a health condition that requires medication. If you see him, contact BCSO at 210-335-6000.
We have learned new information about a man who died after being hit by an SUV over on the west side. He is 76 years old. The Bexar County Medical Examiner's Office is still waiting to notify his family before releasing his name. That crash happened just before noon on South General McMullen, not far from Billy Mitchell Boulevard and Quintana Road. San Antonio police say he was crossing the street when he was hit by an SUV that was backing out into the roadway. Police say the driver did stop to render aid and is not expected to be charged.
Family members are mourning the loss of a teenager just days after his body was found in a motel room. Police say a housekeeper found the two 19-year-olds on Tuesday. Tonight, one of those victims' families told the Night Team's Camelia Juarez they want justice.
Family members of 19-year-old Gabriel Sanchez gathered outside this motel to cry together. Pray.
And I'm happy and lucky that God placed him in our lives.
Sanchez's mother says it's difficult to return to the place where she received such heartbreaking news.
They could have just robbed them, doing whatever, but they took them cold-blooded. And I really want them to find who this killer is.
San Antonio police are looking for the person who shot and killed Sanchez and a 19-year-old woman. The medical examiner's office has not been able to notify the other victim's family, but Sanchez's family says they were dating.
We're going to miss him greatly.
Sanchez's grandmother says whoever killed her grandson took away his future plans.
He did rap, very creative, a big heart, and he loved everybody with a big heart. He had so many dreams and aspirations.
Sanchez's mother wants the person responsible to be held accountable.
We need to get this person off the streets because they're going to do it to somebody else and they're going to take somebody else's child. He loved to rap. He was really lyrical with his words. I'm just going to miss all of it.
San Antonio police are still reviewing video from the hotel, looking for potential suspects. They're also looking for potential witnesses. If you have any information about this murder case, you're asked to call San Antonio Police's non-emergency number. That's 210-207-7273. That number is on your screen. Reporting from Public Safety Headquarters, Camelia Juarez, KSAT 12 News.
All right, turning now to a quick check at the weather. We look outside with live cam here this Sunday night. Things are pretty calm and clear in the Alamo City. We actually had a beautiful end to the weekend across South Central Texas today. Plenty of sunshine. It was a cold start, but afternoon highs were somewhat seasonable in the 60s for a good portion of the area because we still do have that cooler and drier air in place tonight. Temperatures are falling pretty efficiently, already at 48 over at San Antonio International. Those clear skies will stick with us through the overnight hours, which means another cold start is in store by wake up time Monday. We're waking up to temperatures in the 30s across the majority of the area. A light freeze possible across portions of the hill country. More sunshine in store throughout the day, helping temperatures climb into the 60s for those daytime highs yet again. But it is going to be a little bit more on the windy side with some gusts generally upwards of 25 miles per hour out of the east. Into Monday night, though, especially through the overnight hours and into Tuesday, our next weather maker approaches. That looks to spark one of the better chances for rain that we've seen so far this year. We'll time that out and get you a look at potential totals coming up here in just a few, guys.
We'll look forward to it, Mia. Tonight, another battle is brewing on the grounds of the Alamo, this one between a local bar owner and the government.
Yeah, the owner of the Moses Roses Hideout tells the Night Team's Lee Waldman the future of his business is being threatened over the expansion of the expanded Alamo Visitor Center and Museum.
Here comes the government again, trying to take property on the very site where we fought for Texas liberty and freedom. Why? So they can build a theater.
Just a stone's throw away from the Alamo, Vince Cantu opened Moses Roses Hideout 12 years ago after buying the building. He comes from a family of downtown business owners.
My great-grandfather had the Victory Tavern on Flores Street 100 years ago and ran it for a while.
Cantu hoped to pass along this building to his kids to keep the legacy alive. Now, because of the planned Alamo Visitor Center and Museum, he might not have the chance.
I'm on the grounds of the Alamo, and now the government wants to take it away from me after I've built it up.
Alamo Trust, Inc., the nonprofit that manages operations and staff at the Alamo, sent this graphic that shows how Moses Roses will impact their planned visitor center and museum. They state by not acquiring Cantu's property, the visitor center will no longer be a financially sustainable operation and will require city-state support on an annual basis. This timeline shows appraisals and purchase offers for the business. In March 2020, Cantu said he'd be willing to sell his building for $16 million the following year. Cantu says his original asking price was $15 million, a number he got factoring in how much profit his bar could make over 10 years.
We would take $10 million for the property and $5 million for the business, and never heard back from him.
In July of 2020, the Texas General Land Office, which operates the Alamo, offered Cantu $2 million for the property, which was its appraised value. Cantu rejected the offer. Between April of 2022 and December of that same year, the GLO made two other offers to buy the property, $2.5 million and $3.5 million. Cantu said no to both.
And as long as you can pay me enough to where I'm a 60-year-old man, I'm not going to go find another job anywhere. You can pay me enough to where I can retire and not have to worry about it anymore, then great. Otherwise, leave me alone.
He says the GLO and ATI never came to the table to negotiate with him. In a statement, Alamo Trust, Inc. says in part, quote, having reached an impasse with Mr. Cantu, we have no choice but to urge the City of San Antonio City Council to explore the option to acquire his property so the Alamo Visitor Center and Museum can move forward without unnecessary delay, unquote. We reached out to Cantu's city council person, Mario Bravo, whose office directed us to the city attorney's office. They state a decision will be made about Moses Roses on Thursday when council votes on whether or not to utilize eminent domain.
There's fear involved when the government comes and tries to take something from you that you think is you're in Texas and you believe that your private property is your sanctuary.
Lee Waldman, KSAT 12 News.
All right, take a look at this plane. You may be surprised to hear that the pilot inside made it out unscathed. He had to make an emergency landing on a highway in Cypress, just northwest of Houston. According to the Federal Aviation Administration, the single-engine Beech M35 reported an engine problem around 11:30 this morning. While the plane was landing, it clipped an 18-wheeler, hit a concrete barrier, and caught fire. The driver of the 18-wheeler was not hurt either. The FAA and the National Transportation Safety Board are investigating.
50 years ago today, President Lyndon Johnson died. The former president's death in 1973 has connections to San Antonio because it was where he was pronounced dead. President Johnson suffered a heart attack at the LBJ Ranch and was flown here to BAMC shortly after. In the days following his death, he lie in state in the LBJ Presidential Library along with lying in state at Capitol Hill before being laid to rest on January 25th. Johnson was the 36th president of the United States and was known for signing more than 200 landmark laws, including the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, and Immigration Act.
Another historical moment 50 years ago today, the Supreme Court decision on Roe v. Wade. Today, there was a rally held by community leaders of several organizations supporting abortion rights. June of last year, the Supreme Court voted to overturn that landmark decision. The move sparked trigger laws in several states, including here in Texas. The groups rallied with their demands to abolish the filibuster, stop publicly funding crisis pregnancy centers that are not clinics, and repeal the Hyde Amendment, which limits Medicaid services to medically necessary abortions.
Even though we cannot vote for this in Texas, we can petition to get it onto our Constitution. We're ready and willing to fight for it just like our predecessors did to win us the right to abortion.
Currently in Texas, performing abortion is now a felony, punishable up to life in prison.
Making headlines tonight, we are learning more about the suspect in a mass shooting at a dance hall in Los Angeles. And tonight we know he is dead.
Yeah, police say 10 people were killed and at least 10 other injured. The violence happened just after a festival marking the beginning of the Chinese Lunar New Year.
ABC's Tim Pulliam tells us what we know about the suspect along with the moments leading up to that deadly attack.
Tonight, this is the moment a manhunt for the suspect in a mass shooting came to an end. Tactical teams moving in on a white van matching the description of the vehicle witnesses say the suspect got away in.
The suspect sustained a self-inflicted gunshot wound and was pronounced dead at the scene.
Tonight, authorities releasing the murder suspect's name, 72-year-old Hu Can Tran. Just after 10 p.m. Saturday, investigators responding to 20 people shot, at least 10 of them killed in a mass shooting near Los Angeles.
You have 10 unresponsive inside, and you have 2 that are still in critical condition and breathing.
Crews treating victims in the parking lot. Survivors rushed to the hospital. Authorities say their condition ranged from critical to stable. The shooter going on a violent rampage inside the Star Dance studio, according to investigators. Moments before the deadly attack, thousands of people in this predominantly Asian American community were celebrating the Lunar New Year nearby.
Just the sound of gunfire just is terrorizing in such a lovely community as Monterey Park, where people are just loving and the lunar festival's going on, and it's very sad.
Authorities say a second incident at another ballroom in a neighboring suburb is tied to the shooting. In that situation, authorities say an armed Asian man walked in, but some of the people there wrestled the gun away. The suspect escaped, leaving behind the gun. No one seriously injured.
Several pieces of evidence were found inside the van, linking the suspect to both locations.
So far, investigators are not saying if the attack was a racial hate crime or even domestic, but the FBI is involved. Investigators are also trying to determine if the suspect knew any of the victims. Tim Pulliam, ABC News, Monterey Park, California.
A search at President Biden's home leads to more classified documents being found. What this means for the ongoing investigation. Plus, for a lot of people, it's the most dreaded time of the year. We are talking about tax season. What you need to know before you file and how to file for free.
Plus, helping those living with obesity by providing resources early in life. That's the goal behind a new program at the Children's Hospital of San Antonio. Hear about the treatments and surgeries that will now be available to teens.
The rising rates of obese children in the U.S. are staggering, and especially right here in San Antonio.
That's why Children's Hospital of San Antonio is about to launch a new pediatric weight management program, which also includes an option for surgery.
The program's opening times perfectly with the brand new recommendations from the American Academy of Pediatrics about bariatric surgery for kids.
Decades of research has shown we need to be more proactive when it comes to childhood obesity. It's the reason bariatric surgeon Dr. Ann O'Connor was recruited from Chicago to create and direct a new weight management program at the Children's Hospital of San Antonio.
There's no one else really doing this kind of in a comprehensive way in our part of the state.
Dr. O'Connor has pulled together a diverse team of nutritionists, physical therapists, psychologists, and social workers.
So we plan to provide individual therapy support services, family support services. So what family values, what family systems, what family patterns have played into developing these habits, and how can we take positive and sustainable angles at tackling those.
Team psychologist Dr. Kelly Franco will help mentally prepare families to make big lifestyle changes in the face of a disease that is highly stigmatized.
And we're battling immense shame.
That's why they say comprehensive treatment needs to happen early, before kids enter adulthood.
With that comes other medical problems, diabetes, hypertension, sleep apnea, which is really a silent killer.
The American Academy of Pediatrics just released updated guidelines on management of obesity in children, emphasizing early intervention like behavior and lifestyle treatment for children ages 6 to 12, possible medications in addition to behavioral therapy for children over 12, and possible bariatric surgery for children 13 and over with extreme BMIs. Dr. O'Connor knows there's resistance to the idea of teens getting these surgeries, which is why she says education is key.
understanding that surgery is accepted and not experimental and not some crazy idea that,
Here at the center, surgery will be a last resort. The doctors will spend months working with the patients on diet, family habits, and psychology.
And the teens that qualify for the surgery will have a big support team.
Coping with the stress management or dealing with big family challenges is not something these families are stranded in doing on their own.
The adolescent metabolic and bariatric surgery program will begin in the first couple weeks of February, and there's already a long list of patients waiting to participate. If you would like your child to participate, call the Children's Hospital of San Antonio at 210-704-2011 or visit the website.
All right, Mia, I don't want to waste any time. We all have our eyes on Monday night into Tuesday, the most significant chance of rain we've had in quite some time.
Yes, and it is no secret that we definitely need it, right? Yes, chances are looking a little bit more promising, especially through the overnight hours on Monday and into early Tuesday, where we could pick up some totals that will help, considering that we've seen really a lack of rainfall over the past several weeks, and even after wrapping up 2022, which was the second driest year that we have on record here in San Antonio. So we'll talk about those rain chances. A quick look outside, though, because temperatures are dropping pretty quickly, especially just to the north of Bexar County. It's already 34 degrees up near the Bernie Stage area, 35 in Comfort and 36 in Kerrville. Briefly do want to mention that through the overnight hours, because we do have clear skies in place, light winds, as well as those lower dew points, a light freeze is possible, especially north and west of San Antonio, across portions of the hill country where there is some higher elevation. Also, some rural spots around San Antonio could briefly dip to that freezing mark just before the sun comes up tomorrow. Overall, it is going to be a cold start as we wake up to temperatures in the 30s. So you will want to bundle up for the morning drive, but more sunshine. Once again, the theme into our Monday, helping those daytime highs climb into the low to mid 60s here in town, maybe a few upper 50s as we head into the hill country area as well. Most of the day tomorrow is spent on the drier side, but what we're going to find tomorrow evening and into tomorrow night, the cloud cover is going to start to work its way back into south central Texas, which just signals those changes that move in, especially through the overnight hours on Monday and into the first part of the day on Tuesday. That's when we see those rain chances increase. So let's go ahead and time it out and get you the latest look at our futurecast, what the radar could look like here over the next 48 hours. So tonight we are clear and we are calm across south central Texas. A little bit of a different story, though. Well off to our west, there's an area of low pressure near the Four Corners region. It is sparking some snow across southern Utah and into the northern portions of Arizona. No snow for us here in south central Texas. I think the Texas Panhandle and North Texas will be able to see some snow here over the next couple of days. But watch here on your futurecast what happens as we see that area of low pressure work its way farther eastward. This is about 24 hours from now. We are expecting some scattered shower activity to start developing across our far western counties, generally in between the 9 to 11 p.m. time frame tomorrow night. And then through the overnight hours, that coverage increases and it expands, and that will continue to push eastward. Notice by wake up time Tuesday morning, by the time you were stepping out for the morning drive, it is expected to be a bit soggy and messy out there in spots. You are going to want to take your Weather Authority app with you, take the rain gear, and maybe plan on giving yourself a little bit of extra time out on the roadways. We see that low pressure system push eastward. It drops its associated cold front into south central Texas. Again, throughout the first half of the day on Tuesday, just scattered rain and thunderstorms expected to push across the region. Lunchtime, we could still be dealing with some of that wet weather here in San Antonio, stretching farther off to our south and even into our eastern counties as well. But into the early afternoon, the bulk of that rain then starts to work its way farther eastward and exits the area by late afternoon. And we'll see skies clear from west to east. It also will be pretty windy out there on Tuesday with wind gusts upwards of at least 35 miles per hour in spots. In terms of totals, the overall trends lower the farther west you go, potentially higher the farther east. Closer to the Rio Grande, we could see totals in the range of 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch in and around the San Antonio area. area. In our central counties, in between 1/2 to 1 inch. Some localized higher totals certainly possible. And again, maybe over an inch, especially in our eastern counties. So we're going to keep eyes on that here over the next couple of days. Fingers crossed, because yes, that is certainly welcomed rain. And then after we see that front push through, some cold mornings in store in the 30s and highs near about 60 throughout the second half of the work week, guys.
Rain
for January.
30s, January. Yes, it all makes sense.
Greg will join us with a preview of Instant Replay right after this. The last time the Dallas Cowboys won a divisional playoff game on the road, Danny White was the starting quarterback, and it's still the last time after the San Francisco 49ers ended the Cowboys season for the second straight year. With more on that and what's on Instant Replay, let's check in with our friend Greg Simmons.
That was way back in 1981, my first year here at KSAT. Remember it like it was yesterday. Before kickoff of the Cowboys-49ers game, our Larry Ramirez is able to visit with a former Wagner Thunderbird and UTSA Roadrunner who had a major role in today's game. Coming up tonight on a brand new edition of Instant Replay.
For us to only put up the points that we did, that's unacceptable, and it starts with me, and I've got to be better.
So many storylines tonight as Dak Prescott redeemed himself in the win over Tampa Bay on the road in the first round of the playoffs, only to throw 2 interceptions in the Cowboys' second straight playoff loss to the San Francisco 49ers, and the disappointment when Tony Pollard went down. Now, a lot of questions moving forward, including the future of Ezekiel Elliott wearing the star. All right, Larry Ramirez is in Santa Clara, California tonight. He'll join us live from Levi's Stadium.
You got a lot of ball players around this building. I mean, this building is is no stranger to greats. So at the end of the day, so you can only imagine, the expectation that we have here.
Spencer Burford is making a name for himself in the NFL in just his first season playing pro football. Our Larry Ramirez had a chance to catch up to the Wagner alum and former UTSA Roadrunner who's been instrumental in the 49ers' success in just his rookie season by starting every single game.
Portland was great, and had a very, very good time there. A lot of great people still there, and yeah, it's a great city. I'd love to play in there, so it's always fun to go back.
And our San Antonio Spurs tip off a 3-game West Coast road trip tomorrow in Portland. It also includes a stop in Los Angeles for back-to-back games. We'll get you ready for that. All that plus, it's the Bengals, not the Bills, headed to the AFC Championship game. And what will you remember most about the Cowboys' loss to the 49ers in the NFC Divisional Playoffs? Tonight, you decide. Instant Replay is live, and it's after the Nightbeat. The last play alone kind of stood out with Ezekiel Elliott as a center. I thought that was very strange.
It was a strange game indeed.
It was.
Thanks, Greg. Still to come on the Nightbeat. Did you know big cats used to roam around our area? It was many years ago, but the evidence of their existence still remains. How researchers are collecting that evidence in caves.
And the IRS wants to warn you about tax scams as we head into tax season tomorrow. The #1 thing you should look for to avoid becoming a victim.
And another search, another discovery, this time at President Biden's personal home. A breakdown of the moments leading up to the search at his Delaware home.
Now to the discovery of more classified documents found at the Delaware home of President Biden. The Justice Department says 6 more documents, including those marked classified, were found during a search on Friday.
ABC's Mary Alice Parks brings us the reactions from lawmakers on Capitol Hill.
On Friday, FBI agents and Department of Justice officials conducted a nearly 13-hour search of the president's home. The president's personal lawyer saying that officials took possession of 6 items, including ones marked classified. Those items from both President Biden's time in the Senate as well as his time as vice president. They also seized some handwritten notes from President Biden during the Obama years for further review. The search was voluntary. President Biden's lawyers and representatives from the White House counsel's office all present, underscoring that they offered the president's home to be searched. In a statement, the president's personal lawyer writing, "We offered to provide prompt access to his home to allow the DOJ to conduct a search of the entire premise for potential vice presidential records and potential classified materials." This latest discovery made after a special counsel was appointed to investigate the handling of classified documents that had been found in early November at the Penn Biden Center and some later in his home in Wilmington. Democratic Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois telling CNN State of the Union the latest disclosure doesn't help the president.
When that information is found, it diminishes the stature of any person who is in possession of it, because it's not supposed to happen. Whether it was the fault of a staffer or an attorney.
Republican Congressman Mike McCall of Texas saying it's unclear what the larger implications will be.
Watergate started as a very small burglary, and it led to the President of the United States resigning. So I don't know what's there until we see the documents.
A separate special counsel was also appointed to look into former President Trump's alleged mishandling of nearly 300 classified documents found at Mar-a-Lago after he left the Oval Office. A new ABC News Ipsos poll conducted before the news of President Biden's home being searched found that most Americans think both President Biden and former President Trump acted inappropriately with the handling of classified documents. Mary Alice Parks, ABC News, Washington.
Well, as we come up on nearly 1 year since Russian troops invaded Ukraine, a possible 180,000 Russian troops are reported dead or wounded. This is according to U.S. officials. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Mark Milley, calling it a bloody war for both sides. But officials expect Putin to throw more troops into the fight ahead of an offensive in the coming weeks. Ukraine is still demanding tanks to fend them off. This Ukrainian tank commander operating near Bakhmut says his tanks are useless and they need more modern tanks. So far, only the UK has agreed to send them.
Buckingham Palace revealing details about the three-day celebration of the coronation of King Charles III. It all begins with the coronation itself on May 6th at Westminster Abbey. Thousands of events will take place across the UK that weekend, and there will be an extra bank holiday the following Monday. Royal watchers believe this coronation will be scaled down from the last one in 1953 when Queen Elizabeth II was crowned. It was the first live televised royal event and went on for 3 hours.
All right, don't get too excited, but tomorrow is the start of tax season. The last few years, there's been some big changes and some new laws, some in connection with the COVID-19 pandemic. The Night Team's Alyssa Cole spoke with a tax expert about what we can expect this filing year.
As we reach the end of January, keep an eye out for the W-2s and 1099s in your mailbox because it's time to meet with your tax preparer or hop online to file returns yourself. The message IRS officials have for South Texans is make sure your records are accurate, especially documents from your employer, because if they are inaccurate, it could lead to a smaller return.
And when you get them, please take a look at them. Make sure they are correct. If you look at them and from your employer and it doesn't match what your last pay stub says, contact the employer. Don't file with that bad information, and the IRS can't fix it for you.
Several tax credits will return to pre-pandemic levels this year, including child tax credits. People who got $3,600 per dependent for the 2021 tax year will only get $2,000 for 2022.
There have been a number of changes to the tax laws. Most of them were COVID related, and they've gone away.
And of course, tax season means we could see an uptick in tax scams or fraud attempts. According to the IRS, over 90% of data theft begins with a phishing email. IRS officials say the earlier you file, the less opportunity there will be to fall victim to fraud.
Because if someone has taken your identity and stolen it, they may have filed before you. If your return is accepted, that means nobody got in before you did. But if it's not, that gives you an immediate heads up that you need to start taking action, contacting the IRS and your tax professional.
Alyssa Cole, KSAT 12 News.
Remember, you can file your taxes for free through the IRS. It's available to anyone who makes $73,000 or less a year. This does not include state taxes, but there are low-cost options for those as well. Just head to KSAT.com to learn more.
All right, let's go back outside with live cam here tonight. Again, not much going on. It's pretty calm out there. We still got clear skies, and it is chilly, turning cold through the overnight hours. It was cold out there earlier this morning. A few isolated spots in the hill country reached that freezing mark. Here in San Antonio, low 40s officially, not too far off from the actual average low. Same thing for the daytime high. We were in the mid 60s. Again, tonight, those temperatures dropping pretty efficiently. We're in the 40s and 50s here in town. A light freeze possible, mainly northwest of town and in some rural spots by wake up time tomorrow. Most of the day tomorrow is spent on the drier side, but tomorrow night and especially throughout the first half of the day on Tuesday, that's when those rain chances increase as we see our next weather maker work its way into the Lone Star State. Another look at our future cast, plus a check at maybe some fire danger before those rain chances can get here in just a few. Courtney.
Thank you, Mia. Well, you can learn a lot about a place once you go below the surface. And that's exactly what researchers are doing in this cavern. How the goal of their current mission will reveal more about our past.